Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Product School Talk. I'm Cassandra from Product School, and today we have a very special guest for you. We're just getting everything set up, so just making sure everybody can see and hear me. If you can, go ahead and type book, and you'll get a free copy of the product book. If you're already reading it, go ahead and tag a friend that you think might like it. And let's see here. Today we have Yariv Adan, product lead at Google, and he's going to be sharing some insights on artificial intelligence today. Hi, Yariv. How are you doing today?
Hi. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. Can you take a second and talk about your background and how you got into product management?
Sure. Yeah. So I think started my career somewhere in the 1990s. As an engineer. Actually, first it was the 1997 and 8. So first, actually, I started as a startup founder, like everyone else at the time, and then I realized I actually need to start from the beginning. So I was an engineer for 10 years, engineering manager, and then larger groups. At some point, I realized that I enjoy much more the what to do rather than the how to do. So I think I shifted into product management, and I moved to Google. I started at Google about 11 years ago as a product manager. I worked on a range of products from proprietary infrastructure to privacy and security to consumer and other products for emerging markets, YouTube ads. And about 3 years ago, I started what later on became the Google Assistant project. And at the moment, I'm leading one of the main groups that is working on Google Assistant, and mostly the intelligence part of it, of kind of understanding context, natural language, being able to be proactive. And this is the context also of my talk. This is less of a best practices that I've seen some of the talks. This is more a little bit, I would maybe inspiring or thought-provoking talk about product. I think we're going through a very exciting paradigm shift in human-machine interaction, which is going to impact the entire industry. We had very few like this, and I think this one is a very big one. And basically, I wanted to share my views, why I think really a paradigm shift is happening, and also do actual live demo of some of the technology using what we built here. Yeah.
Awesome. I know we're all looking forward to seeing that. So I'll give you a minute to go ahead and start screen sharing and get that presentation set up. And guys, while he's doing that, just a quick reminder, we're going to be taking questions right when his presentation is over. So feel free to have some questions ready, and we'll get to as many as we can.
Okay. I think I'm screen sharing now. And let me start.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, I call it the paradigm shift to natural UI, and hopefully by the end of the talk, you'll see what I'm talking about. So as a child, I guess there was always a little product manager in me. I was always fascinated by these transformative technological revolutions that happens once in a long while and completely change the way people live. So I always try to imagine how it felt living through one of these, like when you shift from cart to car, from boat to airplane, post to radio, how do you experience it as a person? And I felt extremely lucky when about 20 years ago, at the beginning of my career, I was just in time for such a revolution, the connected PC. And within a very short time, actually, we shifted from a physical world to a digital world. Basically from a world where people mostly consumed information in its physical form, like books, magazines, catalogs, tickets, posts, paper maps, stuff that my kids don't even know what this means, or we consumed services at dedicated physical locations, stores, banks, travel agencies, libraries, offices, or general offices, and we transformed to a world which is today that hundreds of millions of users could access hundreds of millions of services from the convenience of their home. And what you think when you think about it in post-perspective, what enabled both this rate and scale of change, hundreds of millions of services, hundreds of millions of users so short, was the emergence of platforms. It was browsers and search engines on the PCs and data centers and servers in the cloud. And basically these enabled this mega connectivity between users and websites that completely changed the world. And as you think about it now, new services and actually completely new companies emerged. All the giants of today, Google, YouTube, Amazon, Quora, eBay, Facebook, Yelp, Gmail, Maps, Expedia, Booking.com, e-banking, all of these giants did not exist before. And at the time, it felt to me like a revolution of a lifetime. God, I was so lucky to experience it. But the funny thing is that 10 years later, another paradigm shift took place, which seems to be even bigger than the previous one, the first one, right? 10 years after the connected PC enabled this digital world and changed our world forever, the mobile internet happened. And then like this clunky and expensive PC shrunk to a size that can fit in the pocket. The cables were cut loose. And suddenly the internet became accessible to countries and people who couldn't afford a PC or didn't have landlines. So it grew like one dimension of paradigm shift is just the scale of people growing from hundreds of millions of users, mostly in the US and Western Europe, to billions of people all around the world. Whole continent experienced the internet mobile first. And the device also was no longer stationary, but actually it followed you wherever you want, right? And new sensors were added that did not exist. The camera, the mic, the GPS, gyros, accelerometers, and all of that. And it became a truly personal device that belonged to you and went with you. And all of these changes transformed not only the amount of people that use it, but also the amount of usage, basically 24/7. We're all addicted to our phones. We cannot imagine 24 hours without it. But it always created completely new classes of apps and interactions, right? Like, selfie, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Twitter, checking into a location, mobile payments, walking directions, email on the go, stuff that we do daily, every day in huge quantities did not exist before. And as again, just like in the first paradigm shift, again, it was platforms that enabled this scale. This time it was the smartphone OSs, the mobile app stores, and of course the cellular networks that brought the power of mobile apps and mobile websites to the billions. And my big message to you here is I think the third paradigm shift is happening now, and it's big. I call it the paradigm shift to natural user interface. Basically, through the power of AI, it allows people to interact with machines in a natural way, in the same way we interact with each other. We communicate in natural language in both directions, just like I'm doing with you now. We augment our conversation by showing and pointing at things. We assume the understanding of context. We assume the existence of memory. We accept proactiveness. It's not like an app, I do something, it does back. I expect some proactiveness. And we also expect some kind of personality, of character. So maybe you agree with me and you say, yeah, okay, yeah, this is cool, interacting with machines via natural UI. But why is that really a paradigm shift? Why is this like something that product managers should care about? And I think that similar to the previous two shifts, it has to do with the hyper expansion across the three dimensions. One, more users. Natural language is the most universal interface. Everyone knows how to use it across geographies, cultures, age and socioeconomic groups, even beyond literacy and technical literacy barriers. It's also the most robust interface with infinite expressive powers, allowing you to easily utter the most complex sentences and intents. This kind of levels the field, allowing novice users to consume the complex services that at the moment are either available only to super power users, if at all, right? With natural language, all a user needs to do is simply say, I'm hungry. I need a flight to New York City for Easter. I need to book a hotel for the ski vacation. I need to schedule the dentist. I need to cook Italian for 8 on Friday night. I'm bored. These are all things that today you need to be a superpower user to find the right app, to learn how to use it, and actually to work really hard. While with natural UI, the platform takes the burden of understanding this very simple intent and handling its fulfillment. So many more users can actually jump into actual users of apps and not like be limited to a small set. Next is more devices and more usage. We saw how shifting from a physical world to a connected digital world impacted people's capacity to consume information and services. We also saw how further how it descaled when we transitioned from stationary PCs to mobile phones. With natural UI, users don't even need to carry a device with them anymore. Once the interaction mostly requires a microphone and a speaker, it can take place almost everywhere and on anything. In the car, with your TV on the wall, with a speaker on a table, with your watch, your headphones, home appliances, everything and everywhere is connected. You don't need to take it out, turn it on anymore. It's just waiting there to help you, and in a natural way, again, with the robustness. And of course, necessary privacy and security measures of what it means that the devices are always there. So again, more users, more devices, more usage all the time, but also more services and use cases. Again, right, remember, taking a selfie, checking into a location, sharing on Snapchat or Instagram, pinning, all of these came into existence only once we took our phones with us in our pockets with all their abilities. It was very hard to imagine in 1995 or even in 2000 these types of usages. It's very hard to imagine now the world without selfies or without these capabilities. I think it's as hard to imagine today what would become possible once the phone expands to these numerous new devices and in this interaction in a natural way. In order to enable all of that interaction, new platforms need to emerge. Platforms that, similarly to browsers and smartphone operating systems, will connect all the services and devices to users at scale using this natural UI while hiding all the underlying complexity involved. Just like we've seen that, cellular networks and all of these platforms did it in the previous ones. Google Assistant and its kinds, by a few other companies that are building, are emerging in these platforms that are trying exactly to do that, to handle that natural UI and make it easy to users to consume across all these devices, and for developers to very easily develop them. So now what I want to spend a few minutes is to show you a little bit of demo. What does it mean? How does it feel? And at what stages are we? And we're clearly at the very initial stages of that intelligence, but I think it's very cool already what some of the things that can be done. So now I'm going to switch to a live demo, and the gods of the demo are never merciful, so please bear with me. So let me connect my phone here. This is, so that's my phone. So I'm going to trigger the Google Assistant from the phone, and everything that I'm going to show here is actually really live and working. You can actually do it on your own phones, and there are no tricks here. All right, so we said we want to be able, at first at least, to access the same information that is available, but we want to do it in a different way, in a natural way. So let's try a fairly complex query. I want to go to London for the weekend. Will I need an umbrella?
Yes, the forecast for this weekend in London is 3 degrees Celsius with scattered showers.
So as you can see, maybe I'll just pull it up. I did not say anything here about the weather. All I said, I want to go to London for the weekend in a very conversational way, and I asked whether I need an umbrella. And actually, this is a fairly complicated query that you need to understand that umbrella is somehow related to rain, which is related to the weather, and actually it's about the weekend and about London. But using the power of AI and ability to understand natural language, the machine was capable actually to do it and give me actually the forecast for this weekend in London, and actually even tell me, yeah, you will need an umbrella. But we want to go beyond that. We want to be able to answer all the questions users are asking us, for people to really interact it in a natural way, and maybe even, be able to participate when people are interacting with each other. We want to go to the really long tail of weird questions that people ask. So I find that the more creative people is when people are trying to remember stuff like, what song does Cher sing when she was on a battleship with a bunch of sailors?
I searched the web and found this song, If I Could Turn Back Time.
What is the name of the movie where John Travolta is sitting in the car and eating a hamburger?
I did a web search and found this movie, Pulp Fiction.
So once again, these are like these very weird questions that we often ask each other in the bar that requires deep understanding of natural language. So this understands actually that it's looking kind of an entity of a movie or a song, and then it goes to the internet. It knows to find. In the internet, there is no clear answer. There's a bunch of blue links, but it is able actually to go in and to extract that information. But in order for this to be a platform, we want it actually to make use of what's already out there. And not only, that Google builds the capabilities or search. So for example, one thing that phones can do today is translate. So let's see how I can use as a platform that allows this natural interaction, the power of translation. So I live in Switzerland. I'm not a great German speaker, and I had a problem and I want to see how can I solve it. Translate to German. Hey, I have a problem. Can you help me?
Hey, ich habe ein Problem. Kannst du mir helfen?
What about I lost my baggage in the train?
Ich habe mein Gepäck im Zug verloren.
So the cool thing, as I will touch a little bit, right? I said before, it needs to understand context. If you want to support really natural interaction, you need to speak with it, not in queries, right? Like when you search, you actually kind of train yourself to adapt to what the computer can answer to get a good result. We want now the machine to adapt to users. So if you notice, my second query was, what about I lost my baggage in the train? And the interesting thing is, like, using AI, it actually managed to understand that I'm still interested in translation, but it also managed to understand that it needs to throw the what about and just translate the second part. Again, the ability to really mimic the capabilities of users. So far, I showed how we can actually now access the public information out there, whether it's translation or weather information or information about songs and books, using natural language. But if I really want this thing to be personal and assist me, I want it also to know my world. So let's try a little bit more personal. Show me my flight.
Your flight is Swiss Flight 1210 to Oslo, which leaves on Tuesday at 9:40 a.m.
So I have a bunch of presentations coming up in Oslo. And the nice thing is I never told it about my flight. But what I did do is I allowed it access to my email. And actually it understands that actually my email could have information about flights. It understands the intent here, and it knows that this is actually a personal query. And for personal information, it doesn't need to go out to the web, but actually go out and check within my email. It finds the email, it parses the information, and presents it in a nice way. Another useful thing that I often, sometimes after a long night when I'm already there, that you can ask is, where is my hotel?
On Tuesday, you're staying at Grand Hotel Oslo, located at Karl Johans Gate 310159 Oslo, Norway.
So this is, again, understanding, personal relationship, going to the email. This one time, it's even more complex information than the flight. Super useful, imagine the alternative if you need to go search in your email, whether you want now to call an Uber or whether, it's like 4 a.m. and you are a little bit drunk and don't know how to get back. But let's try to take this personalization and access to personal information a little bit further. How is my team doing?
Barcelona is first in La Liga.
So this is interesting. A while ago, I told him that my favorite football team is Barcelona. It remembered that. And now when I'm asking my team, it refers to it. So actually, this is an interesting combination of both understanding that I'm asking about a personal entity, somehow going back to memory and taking it out, but then understanding that this is an entity in the real world and getting information about it. When is their next game?
Barcelona's next game is today at 9 p.m. when they will take on Las Palmas.
The interesting thing here also, right, like I can actually go now again and get information. I don't know if you noticed, but just below the answers, I have this like little suggestion chips. This is, again, it is trying to be proactive and help you think about what's next. So maybe I want to add this game to calendar. So only with one tap on the add to calendar suggestion chip, it knows already.
Saved your event.
It saves the information, it's proactive, it's suggesting, very easy, understanding, again, going from the private to the public, back to the private, and very action-oriented. Now, one big problem that a lot of people I have after I come back from a flight is, where did I park my car?
Here's the picture I saved when you told me where you parked.
So this is right, again, you know, it understands the question. When I took this picture, just told it, hey, remember this is where I parked my car. And now it is able also to extract that and give that additional information. And just to show again, you know, a little bit on the level of natural UI, let's try something a little bit even more complicated. Remind me to stop by Dave's desk when I get to work.
All right, I'll remind you at work.
All right, so at the moment, this now requires even more complexity. It knows where my work is. It actually understands that stop by Dave's desk is a message. It understands that I want a reminder, and it actually, that reminder will trigger when the condition will happen. So again, a lot of complexity that these platforms are working to understand and to fulfill, that actually takes a lot of the load, both from the user and from the app developer. And going before, if you will go to a simple user, not an advanced user, and tell them, hey, why don't you set a reminder that will trigger to do something with your app work? You know, that's like, how do I do that? But if all you need to do is say, that's a paradigm shift in the way we can interact and the power that we can get back. The next point I want to make is about understanding context. The big difference between when I speak with you or with other people and when I type queries sometimes on Google or other places is that with humans, we save context and we remember it. I don't need to repeat myself and to repeat the whole full query. I actually speak normal language. So let's see how context makes the conversation more flowing. Let's do first a very simple query. Show me pictures of Thomas. So, you know, I asked for picture for Thomas. This is a very ambiguous question. Which Thomas, what Thomas? I didn't give you any context. So it probably, I don't know why I decided maybe it's Thomas the Train. Maybe that's what usually people ask. I don't know. I don't know what a human would do. But let's now try to give it a little bit of context. Bayern Munich team roster.
The roster for FC Bayern Munich includes James Rodriguez, Robert Lewandowski, Kingsley Coman, and others.
So yeah, you know, I get a very nice pictures. Now let's repeat the same query from before. Show me pictures of Thomas.
Okay, pictures of Thomas Muller.
So now with the context that I'm interested in Bayern Munich, it actually knows that, actually this Thomas maybe is Thomas Muller, and it actually knows to fix its answer. Very similar to how a person would react. Let's take this a little bit even further. Where is the Empire State Building?
The address for Empire State Building is Empire State Building, 355th Avenue, New York, New York, 10118, USA.
How tall is it?
The Empire State Building is 381 meters tall.
Who built it?
Starrett Corporation.
When?
Construction for the Empire State Building started in March 17, 1930.
So I literally, if you look at that, I had now a conversation with a machine, and the last question was actually when. You can't think of a more open, ambiguous, uninterpretable question to a machine other than when. Yet, it knew, although I didn't say Empire State Building, I said it only once in the first query, and then I moved on, right? Like, I was talking about the Empire State Building, then I said, how tall is it? Who built it? When? And it actually knew that the when relates to who built it, right? So like, this is a completely different way of interaction and completely, like, this is actually having a conversation with the machine back and forth. And the cool thing is that it doesn't need to be only natural language. Show me a photo of my family in the mountain.
Here's what I found in your Google Photos.
So trust me that I didn't go and actually tag photos saying, hey, this is a photo of a mountain and here's my family. This is now combining both natural language understanding with image understanding, and then very easily to extract, right? And you can think about, show me my Wi-Fi password, show me the tuner of my printer, show me the shape of this or the shape of that. Let me show you, and we actually even took this kind of image recognition to the next level and added eyes to that thing. So basically it could see, right? Like I said, when I speak with you, I speak, but I also show you, right? I show you a presentation, I show you a demo, and I use it. So I click on the button here, it actually opens the shutter. So now I brought an apple as an accessory. How many calories does it have?
There are 95 calories in one medium apple.
So again, right, like, so now I don't even need to describe stuff or necessarily name it. Like if it's like, I don't know what it is, or it's like in a foreign language, or it's really hard to say, or just like understandable, I can actually also take the power of understanding what it can see. I will just like give you one more example of where this is coming useful. So imagine many times someone gives you a business card and you ask yourself, who uses a business card these days? But you want to remember because it's important. So this is the business card. So I just look at it and tap on it. So it actually recognizes that the structure is like a business card, and it actually suggests to you already a set of actions that are relevant. So it understands what's a business card, it understands what's relevant. You can call directly, you can text or open the website, but you can even directly add the contact. So for example, I click here on the little person that says add and create contact. And this is already pre-populated in the fields with the phone, home phone, email, address. So real understanding of what is a business card, what are the different entities, being able to OCR this, being able then to go back and understand what is the relevant app to trigger, which is calling or create a contact and populating that. Again, if you think, what would it take a novice users to do that? And in this case, just a simple tap, it is, in my opinion, a paradigm shift, and why I think this like super exciting. So let me just get back to the presentation. So what we have seen is that these platforms are emerging and are actually taking care in a very big stack of a bunch of natural UI capabilities. The speech recognition, right? Like I didn't touch on it, but I actually speak with a pretty heavy accent in like, it understood everything, including the very long sentences, the context understanding, the actual natural language processing, understanding the world, understanding the intent, being able to handle that conversation back and forth, the image recognition, the personalization, all of that is being handled by these platforms. And I think once it gets to a decent level, it is going to revolutionize, as I have said before. So I think this is exceptionally important for people like you and me. You do not want to be a person in 1998 that ignored the emergence of the internet. You did not want to be a company that in 2007 ignored the emergence of the iPhone and the smartphone. And I think to the same extent, you do not want to miss this new kind of AI platforms and capabilities that are emerging and will, in my opinion, definitely change the landscape. I think it's super important to ask yourself, okay, what is it, to understand what's possible, what are some of the challenges, how does your product or your world would best integrate with it and ride on the wave rather than be drowned by it. So thank you. And yeah, I'm very happy, I guess, now to go to questions or anything else.
Awesome, Yariv. Thank you. That was extremely impressive. And honestly, to say that AI has come a long way is an understatement. So thank you for the demo and everything. And yeah, as long as you have a few minutes, I know we're supposed to end now, but if you do, we'd love to take some questions. We have quite a few that have already came through.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so our first question is from Sata. As a product manager, how do you gather requirements for these different use cases? Or how does a developer build all these features and like how the E2E process works? Can you explain that with a sample?
I think you always start with the user problem and really try to think where is this capability can solve the biggest problem, or best when you actually start with the problem. And clearly, one of the problems that emerged this whole world is what I said at the beginning. I think there was a big promise of mobile apps, but at the end, with all the hundreds of millions of apps, people install 50, use only 10 that are owned by 3 companies. Because it is actually, there is a lot of overhead. Actually, so how do we allow people to get that richness of services without the overhead? What was one question. But specifically here, right, I would say at the beginning, where is voice needed most? And I would say hands-free. And when I have the phone in my hand and I can type and stuff, yeah, most people can kind of do it. But when you are on the road, like when you're in the car driving, or when you're running, or when you're on a bicycle, that's very tricky to do a lot of these things. And actually being able to do it hands-free and with voice in a natural way, that already brings a lot of value today. At home, when you arrive, when you're laying and you want to control the TV or your music or your smart home, or you want just to hear reminders or to set a note, again, right? So actually looking at these use cases that are today hard. So always I always start with what is a user problem that today they need kind of to work hard or can't do it at all that I can solve with my technology, and I will try to prioritize that first. And of course, I always will prefer frequent big problems as opposed to stuff that I do. Doing travel is cool, but it doesn't happen as frequent. So big problems, frequent problems, and real problems that I myself kind of would use if it was possible, not just demo. And listen to the videos, yeah.
Awesome. Our next question, we have quite a few coming in. So let's see, this one is from Chris Butler. How do you prototype these experiences before you build the AI ML?
So usually you would start with a kind of a concept of saying, hey, I want to be able to do a reminder when I come at work or a reminder when I come at home because I think it's important. And we say, okay, let's mock it up. We have a bunch of tools to mock stuff up, both in a conversational real way or even just screens to begin with. And then, we look at it and we say, is that a really good experience? Does it really solve the problem? Is it significantly better than the alternatives, right? And we can start with ourselves. And of course, there is you can do user research. We actually, as a rule, we always dog food our own product. So we actually try to use our own products internally within first the smaller team, then the broader team, then within all of Google to see whether people are using it at all. So we put this feature in front of people at all using it. People who used it, are they coming back to it? How many one-day users we have? How many 7-day, 30-day? Do we see engagement? So it starts again from very concept with simple mocks without anything beyond it. Then actually we take the time to build it in the intelligent way, which often actually is not trivial, building AI features in production. And then before we roll it out, we try it ourselves, we try it with broader team, we check that there is engagement and usage, and then we release it. Yeah.
Our next, I'm pull another question here. Let's see. Here, this is from Daj, and a few people have asked this same question here. How do we ensure personal data security with AI and human interactions?
Yeah, you need to design it into the product from the beginning. Like I think like very clearly, and privacy and security is like, it starts, and there is more, right? Like AI, there is also like very fascinating top stuff on biases, like like for example, natural language. So a lot of these natural language models are learning from all the information on the internet. But then someone discovered that actually the information on the internet reflects a lot of biases. And for example, when you are looking, you're seeing that man is closer to doctor and woman is closer to nurse. And actually you're carrying biases because that's the sources, unfortunately, but then you're taking it into some of these apps. So you need to be aware first of all these issues and really solve them from the beginning. I don't think there is any magic solution other than doing like, very strict reviews, very strict rules on the type of data that you access, how do you keep that data, making sure that there are no risk of exposing, making it that users understand kind of the information that comes beyond, that you do not expose personal information in a public. So I don't think there is any magic. You need to put a lot of resources into it and plan it from the beginning. You cannot do AI and feature and then kind of do a security review and try to fix it. That actually will never work. And because this is so much reliance on data, actually being more, it requires even more care and deep understanding, and it's an area of expertise where we have specific engineers and groups that this is their expertise to really review the design phase, both the product and the technology, that we're not overlooking anything. But yeah, it's critical.
Yeah, definitely. And let's see, we have time for just a couple more questions. I know there are quite a few, so I'm going to try to group some together. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges in product management in AI?
Yeah, so I think like I think the biggest challenges is that like the ideas and dreams are a little bit ahead of the technology. We're like at the bleeding edge of technology, of NLP, context, image, and it's just not there yet to what we would love it to be able to do. And I think also it's a little bit ahead of users. I think users will need to learn to use that. They're not there yet. There is nothing similar at the moment that makes users even try that. So you are kind of on the edge of technology, and they are kind of the edge of users. So I think that's very hard for a product manager, like, getting into real scale and real useful use cases is not trivial. So what we are trying to do is, like I said before, really trying to focus on the use cases that are building on what already exists now and where the need is very clear. Like I said, in the car or on the go or at home when you relax or in the morning madness. So finding these use cases where there is like actually no solution today and speaking is almost intuitive and the response is exactly the right solution, and then expanding from there. But many times people come to my team and say, hey, we want to work on this shiny, new, exciting thing. I'm saying new is not shiny and exciting in the beginning. It's actually frustrating and hard. But I strongly believe that it has the potential to change the world, like I said, like, like the computer and mobile. And you don't have too many opportunities like that. Yeah, so.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see that even just from the demo today. Okay, I'm going to take this final question here. How do you get started in AI or ML from a product manager's perspective?
I found it, so I didn't start, I kind of, I started from a product, and then we kind of, like I said, hey, we should have something that interacts naturally. And it's a mix of technologies. It's not just AI. And when we started, we were not even thinking completely on AI, but then clearly, definitely in the last 2-3 years, where deep learning and reinforcement learning is making amazing progress, we realized, hey, that's what we really need to understand. So actually it took a lot of time to learn it. So I did a bunch of courses online and internally. I read a lot of papers. I actually wrote a post on Medium, if anyone wants, that like actually the path that I took, how to go from beginner to a fairly good understanding of these domains. You can search it on Medium, but it requires time and effort. Like I would argue, definitely at least a few months just to kind of understand the basics. But I think that product managers today must understand what is possible, what are the things, what does it take to launch, what is the type of capabilities that AI, and it's moving super fast, and continue and be on top of the most recent papers. I think it's becoming the bread and butter of development. And it's super fascinating, so it's fun actually to do. So,
it definitely is fascinating. If you want to send me that link too, I'll make sure that we get it out to the community. I'm sure they'd love to see it, to your article. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Yariv. We appreciate the presentation and taking the time to answer some questions.
Sure, thank you. It's super fun.
Yeah. Always great having you. Guys, if you want more information about Product School, you can go to productschool.com and we'll get Yariv's article out there for you. Thanks again. Have a good day, guys.
You too. Bye.